Welcome to the deep dive. This is where your curiosity really drives what we explore.
That's right. You send us sources, things you're interested in.
And we dig in, pull out the key insights, basically give you that concentrated dose of understanding.
So you can get informed, without getting completely overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's about decoding the need to know stuff fast.
And today, we're jumping into something really fascinating. These interconnected ideas of mindfulness, wise attention, and wisdom.
Yeah, we got this great book suggestion from one of you. Mindfulness, Wise Attention, and Wisdom Training. It's by Sayalay Susila.
She's the founder and abbess of the Appamada Vihari Meditation Center in Penang, Malaysia.
Right, and the book's pretty recent, came out February 2023.
And the mission, as set by our listener, is really to get past a surface understanding.
To really grasp the core principles, right? How these three things connect and maybe what they can offer us.
Exactly. Moving beyond just the buzzwords.
Okay, so let's unpack it. Starting with mindfulness, or sati. The book really grounds this in the traditional texts, doesn't it? Like the Satipatthana Sutta.
It does, the four foundations of mindfulness. And what I found really insightful was how it explores the Pali word sati.
It's not just mindfulness in the way we might casually use it.
No. The book suggests translations like intentness of mind or even presence of mind. It implies something more active.
Intentness. Yeah, like you're deliberately focusing your mind, not just vaguely aware.
Precisely. It's an active engagement. And the book gives examples straight from the suttas.
Like being mindful of your breath, anapanasati, or noticing feelings pleasant, unpleasant.
Or the mind itself, is it greedy right now? Is there aversion? And it highlights another Pali word, pajanati.
Which means?
To discern or comprehend clearly. So it's not just a fleeting awareness. It's about really getting what's happening.
A real comprehension, not just registering something flew past.
Exactly. The book uses this great image mindfulness as sinking into the object of focus.
Oh, like that gourd sinking in water analogy.
Yes. Fully immersed, not just bobbing on the surface like superficial awareness often does. That depth is key.
Right. Skimming the surface doesn't cut it. I liked how it explained the different levels, too, using breathing as the example.
Going from maybe 30 seconds of focus to a full 10 minutes.
And then that story about the marathon runner, completely forgetting himself, that's a deeper state.
It is. And the book links that kind of sustained, deep focus to achieving what's called access concentration, or upakara samadhi.
Which takes real effort, right? It's not automatic.
Definitely not. Continuous effort. It suggests this focused attention isn't just about momentary calm, it's building towards deeper insight.
So what's the main function of mindfulness then, according to the book?
Its primary job is not forgetting the object of focus.
Not forgetting. Why do we forget things so easily usually?
Well, the book puts it down to our minds being restless, jumping around, and maybe a lack of real engagement with what we're doing.
Like being on autopilot.
Exactly. A mindful action, the book says, leaves a vivid imprint. You remember it. An action done without mindfulness. Poof, it's gone.
Makes you think how much of the day just evaporates, doesn't it? Because we weren't really there.
It really does. And the book says mindfulness manifests as directly facing the object, not just reacting.
Like the pain example, instead of instantly tensing up or getting agitated.
You meet the sensation with awareness. You observe it directly, rather than having that knee-jerk reaction.
Okay, so it's about clear comprehension, not just vague awareness. The coffee drinking example brought that home for me.
Just gulping it down versus actually tasting it, smelling it.
Yeah, or feeling upset just being swept away versus understanding, this is upset arising. It mentions the monkey mind, too.
Our habitual reactions, yeah. We all have them. And that story about the student who kept leaving the fan on.
Yes. Perfect everyday example of acting without mindfulness. Kind of funny, but also slightly worrying how often we do that.
And the book connects this directly to being sort of trapped in thoughts and illusions, which stops us being present.
Leads to that autopilot life. Brushing teeth, eating breakfast, the commute. How much do we actually experience?
It's a good question to ask yourself. The author even shared her experience in Malaysia.
About lay people misunderstanding instructions, simply because they weren't mindfully attending.
Exactly. And then it contrasts that with why big companies are using mindfulness training now for productivity.
Interesting. Compared to the monastic community where mindfulness is stronger, aiding communication, it has real-world impact then.
Definitely. And it stresses the need for sustained attention, for that clear comprehension.
Not just a flash of awareness, like 15 seconds, 30 seconds a minute, staying with one object.
Equanimously, too, without getting pulled this way or that. The anecdotes about the distracted audiences in Canada and Malaysia.
Yeah, they really showed how weak our untrained attention can be. We must miss so much.
Probably. And mindfulness, the book clarifies, observes without judgment, no bias.
Just seeing long breath, short breath, pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, angry mind, just noting what is.
That non-judgment is crucial. It lets us see things clearly without our usual filters. The book calls it an equanimous attitude.
Allowing things to be as they are. That sounds helpful for dealing with tricky situations, like conflict or difficult people.
It suggests that, yes, instead of immediate reaction, you get that space to observe.
So, how do we cultivate this? The book gives exercise 1, right? Mindful breathing.
Yes, very practical steps. Find a comfy spot, close your eyes, maybe take a few deep breaths first.
Then focus attention, maybe under the nostrils, just feeling the natural breath.
Exactly. And the key is non-judgmental awareness. If your mind wanders, which it will.
Just gently bring it back. Don't beat yourself up about it.
Right. Don't react to thoughts, just return to the breath. It suggests counting breaths maybe up to 8 to help focus initially.
And starting small, 15 minutes, morning and evening.
For beginners, yeah. Maybe work up to an hour for more experienced folks. Patience and persistence are key.
It's a skill to build. And this practice, it helps restrain those compulsive reactions.
Yes, by observing, recognizing, allowing, and accepting what's happening right now, like with unpleasant sensations in meditation.
Instead of instantly shifting or wishing the pain away.
You accept it, observe it, without expecting it to vanish. You learn to sit with discomfort.
And similarly with emotions like anger, observing it as just a mental state, not getting lost in it.
Right. Referencing MN10, it talks about the downsides of unchecked anger and how mindfulness creates a pause, a space.
Slowing things down, containing the anger, protecting the mind from unwholesome states and actions.
Exactly. Protecting from harmful agitation and unwholesome karma. Then there's exercise 2, building on the breath work.
Mindful of bodily sensations, focusing on specific feelings like heat or pressure.
Yeah. Observing without agitation, recognizing it's just a bodily sensation, not you. It suggests this can bring a sense of, like, emancipation from it.
De-identifying with the sensation. Interesting. And then it moves into daily life practice.
Which is so important. Slowing down everyday actions.
Like the morning routine, opening a door, brushing teeth, making food.
Walking, drinking coffee, showering, even using the restroom. And eating, really chewing, noticing the taste, bringing awareness to the mundane.
Makes it less of a formal sit down and meditate thing and more a way of living.
Exactly. And then exercise 3 tackles emotions directly.
Mindful of emotions, building on the body awareness.
So when an emotion like anxiety comes up, you pay attention. Recognize it objectively, just a mental phenomenon.
Observe it with equanimity, like a third party, not getting tangled up in it.
Yes, not identifying with it. And if it gets too much, you can always go back to the breath as an anchor.
And the idea is with practice, you start seeing emotions are just temporary. They come and go.
Precisely. You see their short-lived nature. It demystifies them. They lose some of their power over you.
Okay, so mindfulness acts like a protector. When defilements, greed, anger, whatever arise.
It stops that immediate impulse to react based on craving or aversion. It interrupts the habit.
Like the author's own example. Feeling irritated with a student, but then mindfully recognizing it.
And poof, it vanished, like a thief running away when they're spotted.
That's a great analogy. And that other one from SN 35.244, water drops on a hot iron plate.
Highlighting how quickly mindfulness can dispel things if it's swift. The book compares mindfulness to car brakes.
Essential for stopping before you crash into a reaction. Very practical.
Very. And it gives more exercises for mental states. Noticing desire for coffee, craving food, pleasant taste, the urge to fight back when someone's harsh.
Seeing anger as an object, fear as a mental state. It requires alertness and effort, though.
Definitely. You have to actively establish it. And doing so, it slows down all that mental chatter.
Keeps out random thoughts, leading to a clearer mind. Like a still pond.
Yes. And that clarity, that stillness, is what paves the way for wisdom to see the transient nature of things. It's a process.
Step by step. Mindfulness clears the ground. So what are the overall benefits for lay people, as the book sees it?
Quite a few. A happier life, for one, by living more in the present, not lost in past regrets or future worries.
It mentions that Harvard study about mind wandering and unhappiness.
It does. Also, enhanced self-awareness, recognizing your physical and mental patterns, your desires, thoughts, emotions.
And alleviating mental stress, coping better with stress, maybe even sleep issues. It mentions Google using mindfulness workshops.
And points to scientific evidence for reducing anxiety,
Right.
relaxing the body and mind, helping with fear of loss.
It also mentions the mind's negative bias, how we tend to focus on the bad.
Yes, and how mindfulness helps counter that. By anchoring in the breath or mindfully facing negativity without being swept away. It's like hitting reset.
It also empowers the mind, makes it stronger.
Increases concentration, leading to a mind that's more still, peaceful, stable, better equipped to handle life's challenges.
And creativity, insight.
A concentrated mind is needed for both, the book argues. It quotes Zhuge Liang about needing a peaceful mind for lofty goals.
And ultimately, for a Buddhist practitioner, this focus allows seeing the true nature of body and mind.
Impermanent not-self and the suffering inherent in that impermanence. That's presented as the ultimate goal in this context.
Okay. That covers mindfulness quite thoroughly, but the book says that's not enough for real insight, right? You need wise attention.
That's the crucial next step, yoniso manasikara. Mindfulness lays the groundwork, but wise attention directs the focus properly for wisdom to arise.
So what is wise attention? How does the book define it?
It breaks down the Pali. Yoniso means something like down to its origin or its nature, its root. And manasikara is attention or inclination of the mind.
So paying attention to the root nature of things.
Exactly. Specifically, paying attention to those universal characteristics. Impermanence,
Yeah.
anicca,
Mm.
unsatisfactoriness, dukkha,
Where?
and not self within everything that arises.
As opposed to unwise attention, like seeing permanence where there's only change.
Right. Perceiving permanence in the body leads to wrong ideas about pleasure, or identifying with changing emotions as a fixed I or self. That's unwise attention, seeing things incorrectly.
And wise attention is the direct cause or proximate cause for wisdom.
That's what the book states. It's the necessary condition. And it outlines two main ways to cultivate it. First, disidentify.
Disidentify, what does that involve?
It tackles those hidden defilements, especially identity view Sakaya Dithi.
That's the belief that everything we experience is mine, or that there's a permanent I doing the experiencing.
Yes, that persistent sense of self underlying everything. The book gives everyday examples.
Like seeing someone and thinking, I see, instead of recognizing it's just I consciousness happening.
Exactly, or hearing a noise and thinking, I hear, not just ear consciousness. Tasting something nice, like durian in the example, and thinking, I love it. Confusing the pleasant feeling with I.
Or feeling angry and thinking I am angry, taking the anger as part of your core identity.
It shows how this identity view tricks us constantly. And it roots this in delusion, one of the three poisons.
Delusion blinds us to the truth, makes us see these changing, conditioned things as a solid I.
And this gets reinforced over and over in Cesar, becoming a deeply ingrained habit.
So the antidote is paying wise attention, intentionally seeing all phenomena as not self.
Yes. Training the mind to disidentify, to separate that constructed self from the flow of experience, reminding ourselves that ultimately there's no fixed self, just the five aggregates arising and passing due to conditions.
The anxiety example is helpful here. Instead of getting sucked in,
You use mindfulness to recognize, anxiety is present. Then apply wise attention. This anxiety is not me, not myself.
and the book suggests this can actually reduce the intensity and break the habit.
Yes, by creating that mental distance. The anecdotes really illustrate this. The student whose child was sick?
She used disidentification to calm her mind during the retreat.
Yes. And the other student, suffering from intense hatred after a betrayal.
Clinging to the hatred as I and mine just prolonged the pain.
Terribly so. But when she understood it was just cause and effect, no permanent self being wronged, the hatred supposedly vanished instantly.
Wow. It shows how clinging to that I creates suffering. The book hammers home that everything is conditioned, impermanent, uncontrollable. Misperceiving this causes pain.
Right. So to practice this, there's exercise 4. Disidentify or depersonalize bodily pain.
This involves looking at, say, leg pain in meditation, not as my pain, but just an unpleasant feeling separate from the observer.
Exactly. Relaxing the resistance, the grasping, asking yourself, who is feeling this? Is it me or the feeling itself? Probing that sense of ownership.
Trying to see if you can experience a separation between the feeling and I.
Potentially, yes. And after trying to disidentify, just being aware of the feeling without grasping, seeing it as foreign, empty of self.
Creating that psychological distance. stepping
That
back.
it encourages open-mindedness,
Hmm.
adopting this new way of seeing that aligns with, well, how things actually are.
Then exercise 5 applies this to emotions. Depersonalize emotions.
Similar process. Observe the emotion, say anxiety, as just a mental formation. Neutral attitude, third-party perspective. Accept it, but remember, not me, not myself.
And again, the idea is the emotion might lessen or fade, like for the student in the example.
Yes, freedom from the compulsive reaction. It suggests trying this with any emotion, acknowledging it's tricky at first, but urging persistence.
Okay, so that's disidentification. What's the second way to cultivate wise attention?
Pay attention to impermanence, Annika.
Focusing on the fact that everything changes constantly.
Yes, based on the idea that all conditioned things cease shortly after arising. It's a law of nature, constant arising and passing away. Momentary change.
And this applies to us too. Our body, our mind, the 5 aggregates.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Always changing, arising, and passing due to conditions. The book gives examples inside us: sensations, emotions, thoughts, and outside flowers, the moon, seasons.
But we crave permanence, don't we? And suffer when things inevitably change because we weren't paying wise attention to impermanence.
That's the crux of it, the gap between our desire and reality. So the practice is to actively keep in mind all formations are impermanent.
Directing attention to the constant change, internal and external.
Yeah.
Adopting that perspective.
Yes, the example of the disliked boss is quite practical.
First, mindfully notice the agitation. Then, disidentify. Not me, not mine.
Then focus specifically on the impermanence of the agitation. Mentally note its fading, its vanishing phase. Vanishing, or passing away. Relaxed attention.
And check if it diminishes. Keep going if it doesn't.
Right. It's actively observing the rise and fall. There are anecdotes about this working for students with discontent, anger.
And the student from the US who struggled but then focused on moments passing, noting impermanent, that brought relief.
Yes, especially with unpleasant sensations. It was a breakthrough for her.
There's a tip here too, isn't there? Don't try too hard to grasp the object when contemplating impermanence.
Right, because that stabilizes it. Instead, trust that it is impermanent, gently guide your mind to its fading phase, and stay with that until it disappears. It's about letting go.
And the purpose is to harmonize the mind with reality, like tuning a radio.
Exactly. Noting the cessation cultivates wisdom by showing you directly how things change constantly.
This develops wisdom to see the arising and passing really vividly, rapidly, revealing the short-lived, illusory nature of it all.
That's the idea. And exercise 6 helps put this into practice, paying wise attention to vanishing.
Checking your mental state during the day, if greed pops up while online, for instance.
Be mindful, recognize it, stay with it. See it as just a mental state, not you. Contemplate it. A greedy mind is just a greedy mind. And then focus on its vanishing phase.
Observing the impermanence of the thought itself. This practice chips away at our assumption of permanence.
And paves the way for letting go of craving, ending suffering. Which brings us to the final piece. Wisdom or paññāña.
The culmination. And this isn't just book smarts, is it?
No, not mundane intelligence. It's insight knowledge, born from continuous practice of mindfulness, wise attention, and concentration, leading to enlightenment about universal truth. It's transformative.
What's its main characteristic?
Seeing the true nature of phenomena directly. Impermanent suffering, not self. The truth that ignorance normally hides.
Its function.
To enlighten. To dispel ignorance, revealing those 3 characteristics, like a lamp in a dark room.
It also cuts off defilements, like a sword.
Yes, another function. And its manifestation is a crystal clear mind, free from delusion.
The book really emphasizes how ignorance distorts our view, making us see body and mind as permanent, satisfying.
When, from this perspective, the body is more like a disease, a tumor, a burden, a radical reframing.
It uses that story from MN75, the blind man thinking a dirty rag is a clean white cloth.
A powerful analogy. The dirty rag is the 5 aggregates, tainted by clinging. The blind man is our deluded mind.
And the eye surgeon's cure is the arising of wisdom.
Exactly. It shows how clinging is the origin of suffering. Birth, aging, death, sorrow. Wisdom dispels the delusion, allows us to abandon lust for the aggregates.
And only wisdom that truly penetrates their nature, impermanent, suffering, dangerous, empty, not self, can do that.
That's the assertion. It also mentions another way to cultivate wisdom, investigating conditioning factors.
Tracing causes, to realize there's no controller, no self in charge.
Yes, it connects back to disidentification. Not me, not mine. Asking, if it's not me or mine, What is it? Where did it come from?
Looking at proximate cause and root cause.
Right. Using the anxious mother example again. Proximate cause is hearing about her sick child. Root cause is her deep craving and clinging to the child.
Seeing the cause and effect without needing a being involved.
Precisely. Understanding the cause of suffering leads back to the root craving and clinging. Abandoning the root ends the suffering. It's all interconnected causality, no central controller.
And as mindfulness gets stronger and contemplating impermanence becomes habitual, insight speeds up.
Yes. You see the arising and ceasing happening faster and faster. The object dissolves, and you see the process itself.
This constant arising and ceasing, this pressure, that's dukkha, unsatisfactoriness.
That's the characteristic of dukkha highlighted here. And further insight shows what's impermanent and suffering cannot be self. There's no control, no creator behind it.
So when wisdom arises, you see the aggregates differently. Not as stable or happy, but as dangerous, painful.
Something to be let go of. Wisdom lights up the truth of suffering and its origin. Read Crave. Then you're ready to let go. Mature wisdom cuts defilements permanently.
It's a fundamental shift in perspective and relationship to experience.
Absolutely. And the ultimate goal of seeing impermanence is that it leads to seeing suffering, which leads to seeing not self.
Fully understanding all three leads to nibbana, freedom.
That's the path outlined. The book quotes AN 7.46 about the huge benefit of developing the perception of impermanence leading to the deathless.
And that quote from DN16, formations are impermanent, arising and ceasing. Their cessation is bliss.
A powerful statement. Very. So, wrapping it all up, the book makes clear distinctions.
Mindfulness. Clear, non-reactive awareness of the present.
Wise attention. Directing that awareness based on true nature, impermanent, suffering, not self. The bridge to wisdom.
And wisdom, the direct seeing, the penetration of that momentary change, the suffering in it, the lack of a self, and it cuts defilements. Mindfulness and wise attention alone can't.
They work together synergistically.
Yeah.
And practicing mindfulness and wise attention continuously develops that wisdom.
Making the mind strong, resilient, aligned with Dhamma, able to handle life without being constantly disturbed.
That's the promise. Resonating with truth brings peace. It quotes AN 8.20. The ocean has one taste, salt. The Dhamma has one taste, freedom.
A beautiful way to put it. And the book ends with well wishes for the Dhamma, sadhu, sadhu satu, the date.
It mentions the graphic of the Noble Eightfold Path included, plus that quote about the gift of Dhamma conquering all gifts.
And information for supporting the Appamada Vihara Meditation Center.
So yeah, this deep dive really highlights how these three mindfulness, wise attention, wisdom are so intricately linked in Sayalay Susila's presentation.
Definitely. Understanding them offers, I think, a really potent framework for how you might navigate your own experience, maybe reduce some suffering, which is exactly the kind of insight, those aha moments our listener was hoping for.
Absolutely. So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Cool.
Reflect on which of these three, mindfulness, wise attention, or wisdom, feels like the biggest challenge for you right now. Where do you feel the most resistance or difficulty?
And perhaps looking at the exercises in the book related to that specific area.
Could be a really valuable starting point for your own personal exploration, a way to investigate further.
Possibly opening up a path to greater freedom and understanding. Something to consider.